We do see certain arrests were also made. Saurabh, Suvendu Adhikari also had posted earlier saying that there were a few students who were picked up by the police and were missing, after which the police also clarified that these student volunteers have been arrested.
That's right. Earlier there was, suspicion that they may have gone missing, something that was voiced by the leader of opposition of West Bengal. And post that, the police said that they've not gone missing and that they've been arrested and their parents have been informed. But you can see, of course, some of the protesters on this side now trying to shake the barricades. But again, like I said, the barricades are pretty strong. They've been concretized, and you can see as they try to break some of these barricades or try to push some of these barricades. At this point, the concrete welding is, of course, something that's very, very strongly built in here. So you can see these protesters just barely trying to break these barricades. But, of course, the barricades are barely shaking because they've been welded together and, concretized into the ground here so that they don't move. And the riot control police on this side keeping a close eye as these developments take place, as the Nabanna Abhiyan, the security for the Nabanna Abhiyan is also, underway here with very strong police presence. Definitely more police than the protesters. On the other side, of course, I'll ask my camera person to show you the water cannons also ready. Riot control police. This side, of course, on the other side of the barricade, the protesters, and of course, these protesters, of course, are trying.
And how long is this stretch from where you're standing at this point in time, where these protesters are being stopped? Of course, the police is making all efforts and leaving no stone unturned in order to ensure law and order is maintained, and these protesters aren't allowed to proceed further. But how far is this stretch from where you're standing at this point in time to the secretariat?
Well, from Nabanna, this would be less than 5 kilometers, I think, but around 5 kilometers if to be precise. And this is where the barricades is. This is a place called Shatragachi, which is where a railway station is also located, a very popular railhead. So some trouble for those railway passengers who try to access Shatragachi station, but very strong security, and the police are stopping protesters here itself. Though there are two more places where there's barricading, further down the road. In fact, if I can give you an idea of, the road that's here, the Shatragachi, this is where the barricades have been set up, and down this road on this side, as you can see that bridge, if you travel, beyond that bridge and then travel a few kilometers, you will reach the Nabanna, which is the state secretariat, where these protesters initially wanted to go, but the police, of course, have not given them permission and have barricaded this place and stopped them here.
Okay, all right. Well, Saurabh, we do understand a lot of politics also is playing out over this issue with, the TMC claiming that it's a BJP plot to create unrest and anarchy in the state, and that is why appropriate measures are being taken by the police in order to make sure that law and order is maintained and these protesters aren't allowed to proceed further. But could you give us more information about those students that Suvendu Adhikari had referred to, mentioned about? Were they affiliated to the BJP or the ABVP? He had given out the names of the students as well, and the police claimed that these students had been trying to create unrest, and that is why they were arrested. Were they anyhow connected to the BJP or the ABVP?
Well, the Trinamool Congress alleges that, they were connected to the ABVP, the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, which is the students' wing of the BJP. But again, one of these persons who called for the protest, Shubhankar Haldar, at one point he used to be with the ABVP. At least he's admitted that on live television yesterday. But he says he's no longer, he's apolitical, and this was a apolitical protest. However, the Trinamool says this was by the BJP. But, looking at these pictures, there are barely about 100, maybe now, or maybe less than that, 60 to 80 protesters, barely. Definitely a lot more policemen. And I was asking, the police about the intelligence they had and what kind of intelligence they had. And that intelligence, of course, was it necessary to make these kind of arrangements, which is for crowds of hundreds. But what we've been told by the police at this point, sources telling us that, look, what happened at RG Kor was that, these protesters who gathered there mixed with the crowd that day. that they came with the Reclaim the Night protesters
Yes.
in 2s and 3s.
Yes.
And so therefore, when the grouping happened outside Arjikar, it was difficult for the police to identify them, which is why they said today we have taken steps to stop everyone and identify if someone is a miscreant or something. And anyone who's a miscreant will try and break these barricades. But as is now, the protest seemed largely peaceful. Some attempts to really shake up the barricades, but also hardly any success at that, given the fact that those barricades, like I was saying, have been completely drilled into the ground. But coming back to the politics, yes, the Trinamool is saying that there's an attempt to destabilize, that there's an attempt to create anarchy and chaos. The BJP is saying, look, if there's any such information about anarchy, chaos or violence or arson, please arrest them. The police have the law on their side to deal with such cases, and also the machinery. So please use that rather than creating this whole sort of atmosphere of fear is
Right.
what the BJP is saying. But
Right.
the Trinamool, of course, saying that these are the BJP is hijacking students' protests and trying to.
But any information
create
about
chaos.
the student organization, we believe, and you've also been informing us earlier, that the student organization cropped up in the past few days only, demanding the resignation of the West Bengal Chief Minister over the rape and murder case at Kolkata's Arjikar Hospital. And of course, as you've been pointing out, that the TMC is saying that these are not students but people affiliated to the BJP. But any information about the student outfit so far?
Well, the Chhatra Samaj, and there are some of these outfits that have popped up on social media largely, and they've also been sharing messages, etc., to people to join the protests. But largely they are unorganized, and also they're not registered. Most of the registered students' bodies, whether they are affiliates of political parties or independent of political parties, they have distanced themselves from this. There are two reasons to that, and one we were explaining. One of them is that when you have a slogan like the resignation of the Chief Minister, it does become a very political slogan. And if you see the protests that have been taking place in medical colleges, etc., they've been demanding justice for the victim. And that's very different. They say that the accused must be caught, and something that, they want to, say that no one must be shielded. But when you, of course, this is a political slogan is what the Trinamool is saying. And the students themselves, some students' organizations have kept away simply because this is being seen as a political protest, even though overtly there isn't much political sort of slogans or political symbols or political color that these protesters are exhibiting. The fact is that they're saying that, they're demanding resignation of the Chief Minister, and that the Trinamool is saying is a sign that these are more political than apolitical protests, and therefore there's organizations that are calling for these protests, A, want to create anarchy and chaos, and 2, are acting at the behest of a political party.
Well, we do understand the Mamata Banerjee government has, of course, been facing a lot of flack after the incident came to light, and over how it was really handled by the Bengal government, by the Bengal authorities, the cops as well. The court also had rebuked the Mamata Banerjee government over the same. It becomes all the more necessary, sort of, isn't it, that the Mamata Banerjee government at this point in time makes sure that no untoward incident happens, after what all has happened so far already.
You can see some of these protesters who are trying to climb over these barricades. I will show you, these pictures, who are trying to break the barricades on this side. So some of these protesters trying to break the barricades, and they managed to actually break one of the barricades down. And, the riot control police this side getting ready now, to try and, target these protesters. The water cannons are ready. They managed to break one barricade is what we are seeing. And, they're throwing chappals at this point, not stones yet. But I can see somebody throwing a chappal from that side. So the police, of course, also ready to tackle. The water cannons have also been switched on, and the riot control police also on that side. They're throwing stones now. They are throwing stones at this point. Hey, pechone. So this is, of course, I'll give you the pictures from here. We are behind the water cannon. So stone pelting has started from the other side. As as they throw stones from that side, the protesters are throwing stones at this point. But the riot control police are also ready with their kind of, their sort of gear to handle this. But like I saying, they're saying at this point stone pelting happening from the other side, and the riot control police also ready as the stone pelting starts from that side. And we'll stay behind these riot control police to give you visuals. But stone pelting definitely happening from that side. At least 2 stones thrown, and attempt to sort of break the barricades. But obviously this is we're here. We'll stay on these pictures for now.
All right, these are latest visuals coming in at this point in time from Kolkata, where my colleague Saurabh Gupta is reporting from. Huge protests are taking place. We can see in those pictures how these protesters have also managed to climb those barricades and have broken some of the barricades there. All right, Saurabh. Saurabh is trying to show us some visuals there. Saurabh, go ahead.
Well, what we are seeing at this point is the protesters trying to break down the barricades, and I'm giving you these visuals of the protesters trying to break these barricades as we speak. This is happening at Shatragachi as those protesters have gathered. But clearly, they were saying that this was going to be a peaceful protest at this point, but hardly so. Stone pelting happening from the other side, and the police also are now ready with their riot control gear and the water cannons to start try and fire the water cannons if necessary to control this situation. But we'll stay on these pictures as we speak with the stone pelters trying to throw the protesters trying to throw, and the riot control police on this side also keeping us vigil as far as these protests are concerned. And we will see the water cannons now. Of course, tear gas being fired there. As you can see, tear gas shells have been fired at this point, and water cannons, of course, now moving forward. And the at this point, as you can see, the water cannons, as we speak, will also now be fired at these protesters. At this point, as you see, this is happening in Shantragachi as the drones, as you can see in the sky, keep an eye on the protesters. But the water cannon has been brought forward to try and, the riot control police have chased the protesters away, as the water cannon here has also...
Well, yes, those visuals now coming in, latest visuals that we are looking at our TV screens there. Well, the situation was getting out of hand, after which the riot police came in, and they're trying to disperse these protesters here. Tear gas shells are being used, and the police seen marching towards the protesters, who were seen throwing footwear as well as stones were also pelted towards the cops. However, the situation is being brought under control by the police. Huge police presence at this point in time at the location here at Havra near Nabanna, from where these visuals are coming in.